Since March 2017, the 3DS has kind of been viewed as a thorn in the Switch's side. It's a system that has a stellar lineup and sells incredibly well at a really good price point, but we all kind of feel that it limits the Switch in some ways. Well, Nintendo, for the last 2.5 years, has assured us that the 3DS ain't going nowhere, that it is an important pillar of their plans and of their video game conglomerate. But all of a sudden, it seems like things may be shifting. Gabe, we got two real interesting things that are happening right now that kind of indicate maybe Nintendo will finally come to terms with the 3DS being sent off to greener pastures.
It has taken longer than I would have personally liked. I can only speak for myself. So I have wanted this to happen since the Switch's inception. Since we found out that you were going to be able to take this console, by all intents and purposes, on the go with you, I said, hey, there is no more need for a 3DS. So much so that I never replaced my lost or stolen 3DS because I figured, hey, it's not going to be around for too long. Switch does something very similar. That's clearly where Nintendo's going, but that hasn't been the case quite yet. And it's kind of cool to see that hopefully at some point very, very soon, they will go down that road.
Yeah, definitely let us know how you feel about the 3DS and the things we're about to discuss in the comments down below. Hit that like button if you enjoyed the video. It does help us out, and the 3DS has helped us out for years. Doing research for this video and reading through the 3DS and looking at my library, it's made me very nostalgic and kind of gave, I feel weird saying this, but kind of want to go back and play through some of the 3DS greats that I either didn't have enough time with or missed out entirely, because it is a phenomenal platform that houses an incredible lineup. I mean, the Switch is doing a wonderful job of setting a new standard for Nintendo console lineups, but the 3DS, it is really remarkable. And at the affordable price point, no wonder it has done so well, and no wonder Nintendo has kept it around. But what are the two things that we're talking specifically about here that may indicate an evaporation of this system eventually? The first is just straight up data, and that is that the sales of 3DS games in Nintendo's home country of Japan are finally starting to really die off. And the beloved status of 3DS in Japan is one of the major reasons Nintendo has been so against abandoning it. But with recent releases of Mario & Luigi Bowser's Inside Story plus Bowser Jr.'s Journey and Luigi's Mansion, we're seeing a pretty substantial drop in sales. So to give you an idea, 2015's Mario & Luigi Paper Jam sold about 50,000 units in its opening week. Mario & Luigi Bowser's Inside Story, now granted it is a remake, but that only sold 9,178 copies in Japan in its first week.
That's super huge really drop off. That's not just a drop off. That is an incredible drop off. And you already mentioned it, so I don't know how much of an impact we want to say the remake has to do with it, but that's pretty crazy.
I think 3 years also has a lot to do with it, and the fact that Switch had such a powerful holiday season. A lot of dollars and focus probably went there. The follow-up is Luigi's Mansion, which has only sold 82,577 copies in over 2 months on sale in Japan. And that is in spite of Luigi's Mansion being very popular and Luigi's Mansion 3 being on the horizon. They're saying that on launch day, the game only sold through 20% of its initial shipment, whereas they predicted it to sell through about 45%. So we're again seeing a game that is a first-party title that that's the best chance for the 3DS to do well, and that's kind of what Nintendo has leveraged to carry this thing forward, is these remakes. And again, both are remakes, so let's be clear, the numbers probably should be lower, but I don't think this much lower, especially when that's all you got. I mean, it's not like we can compare brand new titles. We look ahead, we have Kirby's Extra Epic Yarn coming out, and not much else. Shovel Knight King of Cards is going to get a simultaneous release on both Switch and 3DS. Yokai Watch 3 is coming to 3DS here in the States later this year. But there's not many games that have the opportunity to sell super well, and the ones that are there, even though they are first party and even though they are remakes, yada yada, aren't doing so hot. We see ports sell pretty darn well on Switch. 3DS has the install base where it could do that. 9,000 copies, though. Yeesh.
I mean, look, we're talking Japan only for these numbers, but it is going to echo kind of the rest of the world a little bit. I can't imagine taking my Switch with me somewhere like in my bag and also my 3DS. So yeah. I feel like people have just maybe moved on. The Switch is just a better piece of hardware. That's just fact. and it looks way better. The cartridges are still like really small, so you don't have to carry around a whole bunch of cases. It still has all the good things about the 3DS, but in a way better package. So I don't see why somebody wouldn't move over to the Switch. And then you have all these like giant franchises and then a lot of new games when 3DS clearly has an amazing library. That can't be argued. But like you said, I think the swan songs of it are kind of done. It seems like the roosters are starting to crow for this one.
Yeah, they don't have any major new games to really pull it forward, and it looks like the releases kind of trail off after early April. I'm sure there will still be some sporadic drops, but that brings us to our second point, and this one is super interesting. It's been discovered and discussed by many people. We first saw it from Emily Rogers on Twitter, who said 3DS is heading into the sunset. Now Nintendo needs to convince millions of 3DS owners to jump over to Switch. Hence why 2019 Switch lineup is stacked with IPs that made 3DS successful. And then we have a nice graphic here from the Reset Era user Sengazan, I think that's right, who compares Switch's third year with 3DS's third year, and it is uncanny. It is, I think, insane. I feel like I'm part of the Matrix when I look at this. New Super Mario Bros. 2 released on 3DS. New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe releases on Switch. Fire Emblem Awakening, one of the best titles on the entire platform, hits 3DS. Fire Emblem Three Houses will hit Switch. Luigi's Mansion 2 takes its ghost hunting to 3DS. Luigi's Mansion 3 will hit Switch this year. Animal Crossing, New Leaf over there on 3DS. Animal Crossing coming to Switch. You had Pokemon X and Y, and you're going to have Pokemon 2019. So not only are these years matching up when Nintendo decided to infuse a lot of first-party big blood into the 3DS lineup, and it seems like they're doing the same with the Switch lineup, but it is those properties that were very successful on 3DS, that people came to know and love on 3DS. Now, I think it is a subconscious effort to say, hey, you like these games on 3DS? Now is a great opportunity to upgrade to our new thing and let that carry you for the next 4, 5, 6, 7 years.
Here, I want to ask you this. Do you think that's... It has to be by design, right? Like,
I think so. I think absolutely. You know, Emily Rogers also calls out Yokai Watch and Dragon Quest as games that are handheld titles now getting the Switch treatment, and I think it's absolutely true. Yeah, you could say, oh, Mario's been on the Switch and Zelda's been on the Switch, and they were also on 3DS, but these are exact franchises carrying and crossing over. And I think it's twofold. One, it is Nintendo finally starting to do what we talked about. Maybe not across the board, and it might not transpire in the way we want with like, a 2D Zelda. But we've even heard rumblings of a 2D title coming to Switch. So it looks like they are finally bringing over their best and brightest from 3DS to the Switch. And also, I think this is a concerted effort to woo the 3DS owner, because that is a tough jump, just given the library and the scope and the scale of what that system allowed for. The Switch, though, is building its own reputation. It's building up its own repertoire. And now you get these major Fire Emblems, Luigi's Mansions, Animal Crossing, and Pokemon. That is a major power move for Nintendo to convince 3DS owners to make that leap.
I have to agree with you, Zach. And I'm going to do a little something and go check out what else came out, first party for 3DS on the third year. And then kind of maybe see if there's anything exciting there to see that could possibly still be coming. I don't think they're like trying to exactly mirror it, but
except that they are, which is insane.
Yeah, I know,
but replica.
Sure, but is it going to be an exact replica?
Probably not, but it is really remarkable when you look at that. And I think, with the sales dropping, there's not a whole lot of new games coming out. They've tried to sort of prop it up with Extra Epic Yarn, Bowser's Inside Story, Mario and Luigi. Now this is the time. And that leads me to wonder something even more potentially affecting, and that is, will this 3DS slowdown, will it line up and correlate with a new Switch SKU? Are we looking at an instance where the 3DS is going to lead directly into a cheaper Switch? We've already heard Pactor and other pros predict a Switch Lite either in addition or instead of a Switch Pro. And I wonder if they do that, or if they do put out the Switch Pro, then the Switch sees a price drop, and that is just the sort of the transition that we've been waiting for.
The thing is, I don't think you could get Switch as cheap as, or anywhere near cheap, as 3DS is right now, at least, or maybe even while it was like during launch. Like a sub $150 like Switch isn't gonna happen, even if there is a new Switch of some kind. I don't think that we get that steep of a drop off. So, like, I mean, maybe $50, maybe $100 like cheaper. You know, hypothetically, if we do get a new Switch for the current one, but yeah, I mean that'll be really, really hard to say. One other thing that I wanted to point out, and it wasn't really brought up in the article, but WarioWare that didn't do super well on 3DS, and the sentiment from the consumers were like, hey, this should have been on Switch, and I wonder if that game would have done so much better on Switch. And that's the big disservice about this, right? Yeah, you want to keep 3DS alive because it has a giant install base, but that install base is clearly done buying games for your platform, as illustrated by the games you already mentioned. Like a Luigi's Mansion game on 3DS should sell well, but it's not. We'll have to see how Kirby does. I mean, Kirby is a decent like selling franchise as well, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, start putting all of these things on Switch, and I feel like you'll sell so much more software, and that's where you make your real money, not on hardware.
All right, we see so many games that didn't expect to do gangbusters and then go out and have humongous numbers, so it's totally plausible. I don't know that WarioWare, moves millions on Switch, but it sure would have moved more, I think, than on 3DS. Another point to note about this list of games, these IP that are coming, is it looks like Nintendo is putting an emphasis on titles that you can take on the go. And while that's probably an obvious statement, it's not only that these IP are popular 3DS IP, it's that players will be able to utilize the Switch in a handheld fashion for many of these games. Animal Crossing is a great thing to take on the go with you. Fire Emblem, tactical turn-based combat, a great thing to take on the go. We were talking about how New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe is so much fun on the go and in handheld mode, and who knows what they'll do with Luigi's Mansion 3 and Pokemon 2019 to make those exciting experiences on the go. So it's not just the characters and the titles, but it's also the way in which you use Switch. And I think that's important for Nintendo and important for players, that they're given the opportunity and given the games that say, hey, yes, this is a home console, but here are some really good things that are comfortable and compatible with an on-the-go lifestyle. I feel like that's got to be very important in Japan, and maybe even across the board in terms of this 3DS Switch conversion.
Yeah, I agree, but look, this is the dream, right? Like the one platform, this has to be what Nintendo's stepping towards, and they've had all types of weird statements lately, like, hey, maybe in the future we'll move away from consoles. Like, they're sort of like all over the place. And for me, at least, I wish Nintendo would kind of do what makes sense. And what makes sense is to go all in on Switch, especially if for some reason it does end up being, one of their last consoles here. So, I mean, that'll be interesting to see.
We don't even speak that into potential existence. I think it's cool, and I think it'll be really cool if we do realize and see a 3DS type game hit Switch. And these are all 3DS type games, but we're talking like something that would only come out on 3DS, and that's kind of been like our thing all along. It's like, give us like a 2D Zelda, give us a really cool 3DS type package, and I guess make that move where now all of your games are coming to Switch, and hopefully this would lead to an increase of software releases. That's the dream, I think, right? Like when you say it's a dream to have these line up in one platform, it's because then in theory it would push more software, right?
Yeah, of course. When you have a bunch of studios that have traditionally just worked on 3DS and you free them up to see what they could do for Switch, yeah, that's going to lead to more games, of course.
So for me, it's like, yeah, it would be exciting if all of those developers made big, bold Switch games. Sure. But I kind of would also love to see, and it probably doesn't happen, but I'd love to see a new, almost middle market show up where you do start getting some of these 3DS style games, but on Switch. The WarioWares, the 2D Zeldas, even like another side-scrolling like Metroid or something of that sort. I would love to get that on Switch, in addition to, the big, bold Metroid Prime 4 and Luigi's Mansion 3, like experiences that kind of then help fill the gaps and add. But what will probably happen is we'll just get more, bigger, better, massive games, which is also fine and dandy. That's also a good outcome. I'm feeling a little nostalgic for the 3DS. So as it looks to be going out, this is not a sayonara so long. It is for me, a sad goodbye.
Can I tell them how many 3DSs you have? I
have a lot of.
Zach has at least 65 3DSs.
It's not that many, but I do have I've got Pikachu. You
have at least 10.
Faceplate ones.
You have at least 10.
it's a phenomenal system, and maybe there's a day where we can do a nice retrospective. But for now, it seems like year 3 of Switch, the 3 in that third year stands for 3DS, and we want to know how you feel.
The threes cancel each other out.
About that, and about this whole idea of unifying. And I don't know that Nintendo doesn't make another handheld, but it'll be very interesting to see come E3 what they decide to do with the Switch, the Pro, however they handle that, and I think that will be very informative to what goes down in the future. Right now, though, I'm going to go play some 3DS games because that system was super stellar, and I hope to see them go to Switch. Like, we're seeing these big 3DS franchises, Fire Emblem, Animal Crossing, and the likes, transition. Maybe we'll get even more in the future. In the meantime, everybody, thanks so much for watching. Hope you had a fantastic day and enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Let us know your take in the comments down below. Make sure to subscribe to stay up to date on the latest and greatest from the Switch. And this year 3 that's looking to be quite mighty. Follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/theswitchforce. Link is in the description below. And until next time, for myself and Gabe, have a fantastic day. We love you a lot. SwitchForce, out.